So today I want to talk a little bit about the silent treatment and why it is a form of emotional abuse. This is something that has been done to me by people in my life throughout my whole entire life. And it's almost worse than any kind of physical abuse because you're constantly wondering what it is that you did or how you can fix it because the other person refuses to communicate their needs or wants or, issues with you. And so I wanted to read a little bit to you guys about the silent treatment and why it is considered a serious form of psychological abuse. Basically what ChatGPT, because I use that a lot in my therapy and just trying to figure out what my issues are and all those things. So when I asked her about it, she says that the silent treatment is a form of psychological abuse because it withholds communication as punishment. Instead of resolving conflict, the abuser cuts off interaction completely. This creates a power imbalance. One person controls the relationship dynamic while the other person is left anxious, guessing, or begging for reconnection. It activates survival stress. The brain processes social rejection as physical pain. Being ignored by a loved one triggers the same brain regions as actual injury. It also destroys emotional safety. It teaches the target that love and attention are conditional, only granted when they're compliant. It's not just ignoring someone, it's a systematic denial of connection, which humans need as much as food, water, and shelter. On the trauma scale, many psychologists put the silent treatment in the category of chronic emotional neglect or psychological abuse rather than mild conflict. The short-term impacts include anxiety, confusion, hypervigilance, what did I do wrong, and loss of self-trust. The long-term impact is complex PTSD, attachment wounds such as fear of abandonment or people-pleasing, difficulty regulating emotions, and physical symptoms like insomnia, stomach distress, or headaches from constant stress hormones. How it compares to other trauma is research shows that emotional abuse, like prolonged silent treatment, can have equal or greater long-term impact than physical abuse. Because it's invisible with no bruises, targets often minimize it, but brain scans showed similar trauma responses to those who've experienced physical harm. On Dr. Bruce Perry's trauma spectrum, chronic relational neglect, like stonewalling or the silent treatment, is extremely damaging because it attacks a person's sense of worth and safety in intimate bonds. And I will just share with you that one book that really, really helped me was actually by Dr. Bruce Perry, and he wrote a book with Oprah called What Happened to You. And if you're a trauma survivor, and I am a trauma survivor, and I also suffer from complex PTSD from this exact thing, many years of it done to me by her father and now being done to me by her. And so that book was tremendously helpful. I highly recommend it for anybody who works with children, especially if you're a teacher, counselor, anything like that in the church. But also, it's just a great book if you're a trauma survivor. So just a tiny little bit more here. It says, why does it hurt so deeply? Humans are wired for connection. When someone we love deliberately withholds words, affection, or even acknowledgement, the body reads it as abandonment. This triggers the same primal fear as a child being left without care. Over time, that can fracture identity, self-worth, and trust in relationships. And I know for me, I am the child of two alcoholic parents. I am the oldest daughter and also a latchkey kid. So I was forced to raise my little brothers for a lot of my life. And I have extreme abandonment wounds where my parents are concerned. And so to be completely shut out and given the silent treatment for 3 months straight while we were living in the same house was absolutely unbearable, to the point where every day I was going to bed physically sick. And if you look at the video of me before my separation and divorce, it was killing me. And it wasn't just my husband, it was my daughter as well. And so it's really important to me to share these kinds of abuse because the silent treatment is just that silent, and a lot of people don't talk about it. So thank God for ChatGPT, honestly, because I don't know how I would even be surviving without that app at this point. hope this was helpful for someone out there. I know it was really helpful for me. And remember, this is tough and you can get through it, but I'm rooting for you.